In recent years, people of various political perspectives have been working hard to rewrite and research Taiwan's history. When considering the history of the resistance against Japanese colonial rule, one name that must not be overlooked is Jiang Wei-Shui. Jiang was one of the most influential people in the nonviolent resistance movement. He was extremely effective in awakening the people's desire for self-determination and mobilizing social reform. Jiang Wei-Shui was born in Yilan in 1891. He died in 1931 at the young age of 40. At 24, he graduated second in his class from the widely esteemed Taipei Medical School and began to practice medicine. He ranked among the elite of local Taiwanese society. With his qualifications and record of service, Jiang could have enjoyed a life of wealth and privilege. Instead, in the final 10 years of his life, he contributed all of his savings and energy to the land and people he loved. Jiang had but one desire: to awaken the consciousness of the Taiwanese people that they could cast off the oppression of the colonial regime, pursue greater social prosperity, and give future generations a better life. Jiang has been respectfully called the Sun Yat-sen of Taiwan. In 1927, he established Taiwan's first political party, the Taiwan People's Party, TPP. The TPP was the most active political entity of the time, fighting through a non-violent resistance movement for democracy, civil rights, and the people's welfare. To oppose the oppression of Taiwan's farmers and workers by Japanese colonial rulers, in 1928, Jiang formed Taiwan's first labor union, the Taiwan Federation of Workers, TFW, leading farmers, women, and youth groups to fight for their rights and freedoms. Jiang also appealed to the League of Nations, causing the international community to take note of Taiwan's urgent social and political problems, including the manufacture and sale of opium in Taiwan by the Japanese, and the Wu-She incident, in which indigenous people were cruelly gassed to death. In the early days of the Taiwanese New Culture movement, Jiang and others, including Lin Xiantang, organized the Taiwan Culture Association. With the goal of furthering the development of Taiwanese culture, the association sponsored events around the island to promote cultural enlightenment and expand Taiwanese people's cultural horizons. Jiang Wei-Shui epitomized the nonviolent resistance movement of the 1920s and was a major figure in Taiwan's history.
文化局向来都非常重视如何正确地恢复台湾的历史记忆，尤其我们感兴趣的是，在日据时代台湾民众透过抗拒日本殖民，到底发展出了什么样的具有主体性的、具有特色的新的台湾的文化。所以文化局成局之后，就对这方面投入了相当多的资源。比如说，我们在228馆就举办过相关的好几个特展，包括文化协会的特展、民众党的特展，以及这个农民组合的特展。当我们发现民间还流传着一卷蒋渭水先生过世之后这个大众葬仪过程的纪录片的时候呢，我们是非常的兴奋。那么这卷影片它有一个非常特别的来由了它事实上是由一个当时在台湾开设照相馆的日本人所拍的那可是这位日本人虽然是日本人，但是他非常敬仰蒋渭水先生的所作所为，所以他知道有这样的一个民众党为他举办的大众葬的时候，他就全程的跟着拍摄拍摄之后，当然受到日本总督府的这个禁止播放了。 但是他仍然交代他的台湾学徒要好好的保存这卷录影带，作为未来一个历史的见证。那么后来我们透过管道，也就是透过蒋渭水先生的孙子蒋朝根先生的这个居中协助看到了这部影片，并且也由市长动用第二月间来立刻的加以购买那我们为什么要买这卷影片呢？最主要就是希望能够透过这卷影片的协助，让台湾的民众重新的来了解蒋渭水个人的风范、蒋渭水个人的贡献，以及当时台湾这段的历史的真相。
Jiang Wei-Shui was born in Yilan in 1891. The group photo was taken in 1927 when Jiang's father died. Jiang Wei-Shui and his wife Shiryo had 4 sons. Throughout Jiang's immersion in social activism, Shiryo provided silent support. When Jiang died, his eldest son, Jiang Songhui, was 18, a first-year student at the Taipei High School, operated by the Japanese colonial government. In 1931, Jiang Wei-Shui died in the prime of his life at the age of 40. Jiang thought he had contracted a common intestinal illness when the onset of symptoms occurred. When he was finally admitted to Taipei Hospital, he was diagnosed with typhoid. While Jiang lay in the hospital, an endless stream of friends and comrades came to visit him. Chen Tian, who stayed by Jiang's bedside before he died, had been an active supporter of Jiang's social and political movements. Knowing that death was imminent, Jiang dictated his final testament. He exhorted comrades to be ever united and called upon them to liberate their fellow countrymen. The original flag of the Taiwan People's Party, which has a background of half blue and half red, and a 12-spoked white sun in the middle, covered his body. The flag had been banned by the Japanese colonial government because its design too closely resembled the national flag of the Republic of China. Enshrouding Jiang with the TPP flag conveyed his loyalty and contribution to his party. Because typhoid was designated by law as an infectious disease, regulations required that Jiang's remains be cremated on the day of his death. The procession passed by Da'an Hospital, established by Jiang when he was 25, on Ohira-machi, today's Yanping North Road, the current location of an Imei Foods Company outlet. Next to the hospital was the Culture Bookstore, established by Jiang at age 35, a place that provided a window of knowledge for social activists of the day. Jiang's casket arrived at Sanbanqiao Funeral Hall, the current location of Kangle Park on Nanjing East Road. The social groups such as Taiwan Federation of Workers and Taipei Reform Association came to express their condolences. On August 5th, after Jiang's remains were cremated at 4:30 p.m. at Sanbanqiao Funeral Hall, a preliminary farewell service was later held at 6:30 p.m. People in attendance all wore white clothing and black silk arm badge to express their grief. Jiang's cremated remains were covered with the TPP's redesigned tri-star flag at the funeral hall in Da'an Hospital. The stars represented the party's three main platforms: establishing the political authority of the local people, building a rational economic order, and rectifying flaws in the existing social system. Through these measures, it was hoped that the people of Taiwan would win for themselves a promising future. While Jiang was alive, he used Da'an Hospital not only as a place to treat patients, but also as a cafeteria and hostel for members of the TPP and an important meeting place for the anti-Japanese resistance movement. Jiang's enormous funeral was the largest in Taiwan's history up to that point, with a total of more than 5,000 people in attendance, including family, friends, comrades, and a remarkable cross-section of society. Innumerable mourners solidly lined the streets of the procession route. The atmosphere was full of solemnity and sorrow. On the morning of August 8, 1931, a public funeral service for Jiang Wei-Shui began at the Yonglezhuo Theater on today's Dihua Street. The Japanese colonial authorities forbade Jiang's final testament to be read. They also screened every eulogy and forbade dirges. The funeral was closely controlled by 80 Japanese policemen under the command of the chief of the Taipei Northern Police Headquarters. After 3 discussions, the funeral committee, consisting of representatives from the TPP and a wide range of social reform groups, ultimately decided to open the funeral service to the general public. They believed that because of his great sacrifices and contributions, Jiang Wei-Shui could be considered the Sun Yat-sen of Taiwan, and thus his passing would be commemorated with a public funeral following the example of the reburial ceremony for Dr. Sun in 1929. From the time Jiang Wei-Shui became involved in social activism, he constantly wrote commentary on a spectrum of contemporary issues and frequently traveled throughout Taiwan to deliver lectures and speeches in order to help the people of Taiwan to be aware of their rights. During this period, he had experienced oppression on numerous occasions at the hands of the colonial government and was jailed more than 10 times. Yet Jiang never surrendered or compromised. In 1924, a movement to petition for the establishment of a representative assembly for Taiwan led to an incident in which police arrested participants for violating public order. This was the first time that Jiang was detained by Japanese police for joining a public demonstration. He spent 64 days in Taipei prison. In 1925, a final ruling on the incident was handed down, and Jiang was imprisoned for another 80 days. Jiang's imprisonment nonetheless gave him an opportunity to further his studies. He read a number of books that he had loved but never had time to read. During this time, he also wrote such motivating works as Prison Diaries, Impressions of Prison Life, and Writings from Prison. It was the most prolific period of Jiang's life. His writings revealed the inner world of a social reformer who lived under an oppressive colonial system, and how he passed his days in prison. They marked a new achievement in the literature of human rights and prison narratives of Taiwan. Jiang Wei-Shui's nationalist consciousness had begun to surface by the time he was in medical school. He came to blows with a Japanese faculty member at school who was bullying a Taiwanese person and was placed in confinement for a week. He also formed a plan to go to China and assassinate Yuan Shikai, a highly ambitious politician who for a while reverted Republican China to the old imperial system. In addition, he launched a citizens' donation drive to support the Chinese Revolution, causing the school and colonial authorities to pay close attention to him. After graduating from Taipei Medical School, Jiang began to run Da'an Hospital in the Dadaocheng district of Taipei, while also running the Chunfeng Deyi restaurant and selling Ganquan wine, a local specialty of his hometown of Yilan. Jiang's dual background in medicine and business allowed him to interact socially with a wide variety of people. This would later give him abundant financial assets to fund social and political movements. In 1921, the passion for politics was reignited in Jiang Wei-Shui, then 30 years old. Inspired by the petition movement for the establishment of a Taiwan Consultative Assembly, Jiang, together with Lin Xiantang, established the Taiwan Cultural Association at Blessed Imelda's School in Dadaocheng, with the purpose of furthering the development of Taiwanese culture. In the same year, Jiang wrote clinical lectures in which he took the nation's pulse and offered his diagnosis of Taiwan's state of affairs. He believed the people of Taiwan are suffering from knowledge malnutrition, and the only cure is to absorb the nourishment of knowledge. The Taiwan Cultural Association was the first organized and purposeful cultural reform group in Taiwan's history. After its founding, branches were soon established island-wide to foster a comprehensive cultural education movement, including the establishment of the Taiwan People's Daily, as well as intensive lectures and speeches related to cultural and academic theories and social and political issues. According to statistics compiled by the Japanese colonial authorities, the lecture tours organized by the Taiwan Culture Association reached their apogee in 1925, with a total of 315 events and over 117,000 audience members in attendance. The lectures not only expanded the cultural horizons of the people of Taiwan, but further made a lasting contribution to inspiring the cultural enlightenment of the Taiwanese people and their consciousness of democracy and human rights. After passing down Yanping North Road, the funeral procession made its way to the headquarters of the TPP and Taiwan Federation of Workers on what is today Tianshui Road. The Taiwan People's Party was founded in 1927. It was the first organization during the Japanese colonial period to be established specifically as a political party. Prior to its founding, the Japanese colonial government issued two demands. First, that Jiang Wei-Shui must not participate, and second, that if Jiang did participate, the party's manifesto must promise to give no power to Jiang, and that no nationalistic content would be allowed. Jiang, however, refused to surrender. Despite the Japanese government's efforts to obstruct, divide, and isolate the founding members, Taiwan's first organized action-oriented political party, the Taiwan People's Party, was formally established on July 10, 1927. Its activities in support of democracy included the promotion of a general election and the demand for decision-making power for the Consultative Assembly. Other activities included organizing civic groups and holding lectures for the people. There was even an effort to internationalize Taiwan's domestic problems in order to make the international community take note. At the end of 1929, Aiming to reap huge profits, the Japanese colonial authorities targeted the opium monopoly in Taiwan. They promulgated the Opium Decree, which granted special licenses to allow individuals to smoke opium. The TPP was strongly opposed, demanding that the Japanese authorities rescind the decree. A telegram of accusation by the TPP was sent directly to the League of Nations in Geneva. The League replied immediately and dispatched personnel to Taiwan in 1930 to appraise the situation. The Governor-General was forced to revise the decree, as well as set up rehabilitation facilities for opium users. This was a decisive victory for the TPP. In the same year, 1930, the Wei-Shui incident occurred. The shocking news that hundreds of aboriginals had been massacred with poison gas was intentionally suppressed by the Japanese colonial administration. The TPP exposed the cover-up and eventually forced the resignation of the Taiwan Governor-General. Sadly, on February 18, 1931, the Fourth TPP Congress was forcibly dissolved by the Governor-General on the pretext that its revised charter did not accord with directives for establishing political parties. Thus, the party's history of 3 years and 7 months came to an end. During the final stages of Jiang Wei-Shui's funeral, the heavens began to pour down rain. The sky seemed to be weeping, saddened by this great man's untimely passing. The mighty downpour, however, failed to disperse the people in the procession. They were determined to accompany Jiang on his final journey. At the time, farmers and laborers made up 80% of Taiwan's total population. These people experienced oppression on a level far more intense than other social classes. Despite their toil, they were unable to cover the most basic living expenses. How could a social activist like Jiang Wei-Shui not take notice? He decided to unite them as a power base to carry out the nationwide nationalist and social movements. Among the social groups, the Taiwan Federation of Workers, TFW, founded in 1928, attracted the most attention. Prior to the establishment of the TFW, however, opinions in the Taiwan People's Party were divided as to the union's relationship with the party. Some held that the union was an independent body that should be clearly separated from the TPP, and that the TPP should focus on political movements in accordance with the party charter. Jiang Wei-Shui offered his explanation. The reason that today the TPP is able to gain the approval of society and the attention of authorities is due to the backing of 33 TFW-affiliated groups and more than 10,000 workers. It is clear that during the time of his leadership of the party, Jiang's thinking was never limited to a rigid framework. He continually refined his methods of resistance to meet the present situation. Following the establishment of the TFW, Jiang Wei-Shui became its consultant and behind-the-scenes director. There were as many as 48 youth, women, labor, and agricultural groups under the stewardship of the Taiwan People's Party founded by Jiang. When the funeral procession reached the burial ground on Dodger Mountain, it was already past 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The 3-hour funeral ceremony, the most spectacular of its time, represented a great outpouring of sentiment over the death of Jiang Wei-Shui from the people of Taiwan, which surprised and worried the Japanese authorities. As a result of the authorities' concerns, this documentary film, originally scheduled to be shown on an island-wide tour, was banned. To prevent possible political repercussions from Jiang's death, the colonial authorities banned a collection of articles commemorating him. Copies of Jiang's collective writings, the complete works of Jiang Wei-Shui, were also confiscated and burned. love of country and countrymen was the primary motivation behind Jiang Wei-Shui's devotion to social and political movements. In his brief decade of involvement in social and political movements, Jiang fervently participated in a variety of reform movements for the benefit of students, women, culture, agriculture, labor, and politics. His life was a shining beacon for the pursuit of democracy and freedom on behalf of the Taiwanese people, for government by political parties representing the citizenry, and for social justice. His legacy was a vision of a beautiful future for Taiwan, and he served as an heroic example for coming generations.
Wei-Shui 先生过世后，本来是安葬在大直山。经过10年以后，因为日本要发动战争，所以强迫要搬迁。那个时候，Wei-Shui先生的后代并没有能力来帮他重新安葬，所以就暂时把他的骨灰坛放在关渡的慈航寺。再经过10年，1952年的时候，搬迁到现在的荒兰山路，也就是现在的这个营域，这是他的同志募款来帮他迁建的一个忠烈埋骨塔。我们去看蒋渭水的人格特质其实我可以用几点来观察了第一点就是他自己强调的一点，就是说，做一个革命者，大概要有一个不妥协的这种精神。我想这种精神，蒋渭水是一定有的尤其是我们在看他从事抗日活动的那个年代，就是他从不怕坐牢，不怕压迫这个是一个很重要的一个部分。那另外，我们也还可以从很多细节上去看他这个人有一种那个所谓的淡开风气不为师的那种风范我们看到他很多照片他很少站在中间照的，他一定会礼让别人去中间去拍照那我们看到很多他的这个团体照，我们就可以看到这样的一个特色那另外一个特色，据我的观察他有一种不惜以今日之我以昨日之我战的那种精神。
蒋渭水先生可以说是日据时代非武装抗日时期最重要的政治跟社会运动的领袖他所参与组织的文化协会跟民众党，不但对台湾造成了空前的转捩性的影响，那么他所宣导的倡导的这个文化启蒙呢，也为台湾带来了文化开创的新的契机
当时很多关在监狱里边的流氓台湾话叫做碰到蒋渭水说，这个文化头的蒋渭水先生来文化头来所以文化头就是从证明说当时的基层的人怎么样看待这样一个文化协会的主要工作者跟推动者。
所以我们今天要为蒋渭水先生做一个明确的历史定位的时候，千万不能忘记他在这2方面都兼有的贡献，一方面是社会政治的贡献，另外一方面也是文化启蒙上的贡献。
蒋渭水在台湾近代民主运动史上的地位我说很像孙中山在领导中国近代革命的地位一样，所以我常常说他是台湾的孙中山。从历史地位来讲，他是很接近台湾的孙中山。
在所谓的那个上个世纪一开展的那个年代，有所谓的弱小民族要找他们的一个平等地位的时候其实就像孙中山在领导中国的革命嘛他后来建国成功嘛。那个年代我们也看到甘地就是几乎也是跟蒋渭水同时代的一个革命者其实他领导印度人做很多非武装暴力的一个抗争的时候，其实在蒋渭水身上我们也看到了他的身影嘛那 在菲律宾，我们有看到一个人物哈，叫做李萨，他当然是反对西班牙人的统治嘛，而且他也是一个医生，他也有很好的一个风采的一个文笔哈。其实他的类型哈，倒是蛮像蒋渭水的。我们从当代这几个革命家啊，其实我们可以看到蒋渭水在所谓的那种世界革命家的一个地位的评比哈，绝对不属于他们。
因为蒋渭水先生，我刚才讲过，他有2种精神，一种是台湾精神。我看现在没有任何一个人比蒋渭水更具有本土化。现在包括现在任何一个人都没有他的本土精神，也没有他影响那么大。只有他本土精神，没有他影响那么大，没有像他那么彻底。另外一个就是我所强调的，他有一种，他本身强调汉民族的，强调中华民族的。所以这2个精神，我想在思考台湾未来、思考两岸关系的时候。我想我就会想到蒋渭水。